So after spray painting this with the base color, I'm going to start painting. So I have here, let me show you my paints, my brushes. Usually for those small parts, I use smaller brushes. For those wider parts, I use the wider ones. I have my rag and a bottle of water where I can wash my brushes. So um, painting takes time. So because I'm not that techy, I don't know how to do those, what do you call this? Um, fast, fast videos. So I'm going to show you just some of the parts, okay? Because the techniques I'm going to show you, I'm going to apply to all of it. Okay. So let's start with the wooden planks. So I have decided to use something lighter for the wooden planks. I have here yellow ochre. Where is that? I have yellow ochre. I saw yellow ochre a while ago. There. So what I'm going to do is, or what I'm going to use is what people call the dry brush technique. The dry brush technique is uh, when you get some of the paint, okay, I'm going to put paint here on I have this cardboard, where I mix paints. Okay. So because it's a small part, I'm going to get a smaller brush. Okay, let's see. I think it's fine. Okay, now, uh, okay, this one. Okay, so in the dry brush technique, you apply paint to your brush, and then you remove the excess. Okay, so I have paint here. You remove the excess by wiping it on the board, and then you apply it thinly. Okay, let's see. Okay, there. Okay, dry brush. Uh, it's as if there's very, very little paint. Okay, so you use the dry brush technique if you want to highlight just those parts that are raised up, and then the ones that are deeper, remember, uh, I made some cuts. I made some cuts or carvings. Those carvings will retain their color. The carvings will remain black. Remember, my base color is black. Okay, so you will just see the design of the wood. Okay, let me show you. Okay, now that's what I'm saying. Okay, so that's dry brush. Now, if you decide to, oh, why not? I think I'm going to change the color. Then you can. You just get another color, and then you brush it over the one that you applied. As I was saying, as I said in one of the videos, there are lots of ideas on the internet. Go to Google, and then you Google search for fairy houses or fairy doors, and you will see different shapes of fairy doors. And there are also videos on YouTube. I saw a video of a man making a fairy door decor, not on a can, but like a tabletop decor. And he had some ideas there, so you can get ideas from those vids. Okay. Okay. Sometimes you would need more than one layer to bring out the color. Now, let's say while applying paint, there are parts that you accidentally painted. No problem, because you can retouch that with the color that you need, that should be used there. Okay, now I'm putting second coat. So I used yellow ochre because the door, I want it to be brownish, not too dark, not too dark, but something light. I have seen pictures on the internet of fairy doors, and the colors were blue, like ashen blue, not the dark, not the bright blue, but ashen blue, um, old rose or champagne, which is like pinkish red or wine, and I have seen one which was more of on the green. Okay. So by using the dry brush technique, you can let the grains appear. So look now, that's the door. Okay. So if I would like to make some of it a little darker, I could mix some brown. It depends on you. Where is that? I have some brown here. I have lots of tube paints. Okay, this is burnt. Okay, sienna tostada, or I think in English this is burnt sienna. I usually see burnt sienna in watercolor labels. So you can mix. Okay? You can get some of your paint. Okay, let's apply some of the yellow ochre still. Okay. Okay, now there it is. I'm going to try to mix some yellow yellow ochre to the brown to make it a little darker. Okay, so I mix the two. There it is. It's a little like coffee. Okay. So I'm going to make parts of it a little dark. You just experiment. Right now I'm experimenting with the colors. Okay, so parts of it are darker. Now we have a second shade. Now if you want it still darker, then you just apply the pure burnt sienna. I'm going to apply pure burnt sienna to give it a darker shade. Now once dried, it's up to you. You could highlight it with metallic paints. Metallic paints make um, your the parts of the of your project look nice. Okay, so okay, there it is. Okay, okay. So I'm making parts of the wood darker by applying. So now my wood has 2 or 3 shades. That's how wood is, right? It's not usually single color. Look at that. It has different shades. I like the dark brown. So it's like adding shadows to parts of the door using a darker shade. And then after this, I'll paint the doorknob and the hinges. There's that. Okay. Okay. So there. I like the color now because there are different tones, different shades of brown. Hmm. I like this one now. Okay. Okay. So it's like the door is realistic. Okay. There it is. Okay. I like the color better. Now, remember this one here is like a porthole. I'm going to give it a different color. Now, as I was saying, if there are parts that have been stained by the paint, like the hinges here, I'm supposed to make them black with silver. Okay? These are the hinges. Okay? So what I do, I'll just get my black paint and retouch that. Brush it over carefully. So there, the hinges are now black again, because while applying paint you would really accidentally uh, color some of the parts. it's it's part of the the process, unless you have tiny brushes. There are brushes that are very thin, and some of them are expensive, especially depending on the type of the hair used. My brother studied fine arts, major in painting, and he once mentioned that there are hairs from animals. It depends on the source of the hair. It makes the brush more expensive. Okay, there. So the hinge and also the porthole, I'm painting it black. Okay. Now I'm going to let that dry. Oops, I accidentally painted the brownish ochre. So I'm going to retouch that again because they have really small parts. Okay. Oh, I have a brush here that is really thin. Okay, I'm going to use this. So I'm going to use the brown. Okay, this is a thin brush, so I could use it to cover those smudges. Sometimes it's better to let the paint dry before retouching, because if the paint is still wet, they will just mix. They're just going to mix. Okay, so there is my brown. Let's apply some brown somewhere to give it a more woody effect. Now, I'm going to paint this part here, the one like the edge, the rock border. For that, I'm going to use, uh, let's see, okay, hold on, I'm going to get some white paint, okay, because I would like to mix white and black and blue to make it, something like light blue. Hold on. So this is paint from the hardware store because I ran out of paint, white paint in tubes. I have no more white paint in tubes. Okay, so I'm going to get some of this, put it on my board. Let's get some. Yeah. Okay. 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 Now I'm going to mix colors. I'm going to add some black to make it gray. Now to make it gray, you have to mix only a little amount. Okay? Just a little. Just for you to achieve the color that you want. Okay, so there. It's grayish now. Just a little amount of black would be enough. I'm going to add some blue to give it a bluish tint. I have lots of tints here. It's pearl sapphire. Okay, cyan blue. I hope this is still okay. Cobalt. There's cyan. Okay, here. I'm going to get a little blue. Oh, it's still closed. It's still sealed. I haven't used it yet. Okay, so let's punch this. Okay, I'll get some of the paint and mix it so that the gray would have a bluish tone, tinge. Okay, not enough. Not enough. So I'm going to add some more. So it's just like that. You just use dry brush, okay, and dry brushing technique. And then if you have seen my other videos, I have demonstrated how to paint the leaves. Okay. Okay. Okay, there it is. It's bluish, grayish blue. Okay. Okay. Now, so if I want it a little lighter or a little, I'll just add some white. So you just mix the paint until you achieve the color that you want. Okay. So once you make some projects like this, you will learn how to mix your own, the paint, the colors that you want to achieve. Okay, there. I think this is better. Okay. So now I'm going to dry brush. I have dirty lots of brushes. So I'm going to get one brush. Make sure it's blended completely. Okay. Okay, so wipe off the excess. Get some of the colors that you want. Wipe off the excess. Now I'm going to dry brush it on the edges. Okay. Now for sure I will, when I made this, I added some vines. So now I'm accidentally painting them. But once this is dry and I start painting the, okay, I also accidentally painted the, let's call this, the mushroom. So once this part is dry, I can retouch. Okay, there it is. That's the color that I want. Okay, so you just mix. Too much paint, you wipe it off with your finger. So there it is. Okay. Make sure you brush all of the parts that need to be brushed or that need to be reached by the paint. Where's the thin one? I need a thinner brush to reach. There are some parts that I have okay, so I need this thin brush for that part inside. Okay, there it is. Okay, now let's paint this one here, the rock and the step. Okay. The rock and the step. Now for the rock and the step, I would like it white with some tinge of brown, very light, like dirty stones. We sometimes have these white rocks or white stones in our garden, and when they get dirty, they get a little brown. Okay. So I'm going to mix white again. Okay, there, white. I'm just going to mix a little because that part is not, the area of that part is not so big. Okay, now let's have the, where's the burnt sienna? Okay, there. I'm going to add a little brown. Okay. Okay, there. I think it's not enough. Okay, there. It's a little brown. Okay. Add some ochre. I haven't achieved the right shade I want. After painting the doorstep, I'm going to pause the video. And when I return, I'll be showing you again how to paint the, what do you call this, the leaves and the branches and the vines, okay? Although it's in another video, I think it's better that I show it also now in this video, okay? So here I remove the excess and then I dry brush. Look, by dry brushing, there is your doorstep. Just dry brush it. And the rock. Okay. Okay, so that's it. Now, there's this video I saw before. Let's say you painted the rocks white and you want it stained with black. You just mix some you get some black paint, okay, and then add lots of water, and then you dirty up that that part. Okay, okay. So there it is. So I'm going to pause here because it's still wet. When I return, I'll show you how to. Okay, I think this one is okay. I'm going to paint the hinges and this part here before I pause the video. Okay. I'm going to use bronze. My favorite color is for the metallic paints is bronze because it's not too dark. It's just right. Okay, let me turn on the lights. Okay, so I'll get some bronze. Okay, and I'm going to paint the porthole lightly, dry brush. Okay, just dry brush it to give it a metallic look. There. Okay. Now let's say you want your door to have that, shiny effect. You just dry brush it with the copper or the bronze lightly. Now look here. I'm applying some of the bronze. Now it's making the door more shiny, and which is nice because you know it gives it a more fairy tale look. If this were a fairy house, everyone knows that fairies in myths, they have pixie dusts, right? So there. So I can highlight some of the grains with copper so that uh, when finished, you would see some of the grains standing out. Okay, now look at the effect of the bronze paint. There it is now. It's shinier. Now, this one here is supposed to be a glass, so I can paint that with white. Or I can get a gemstone. I have some rhinestones. I might uh, place one here. I still have to look for one that fits here. And then for the black hinges, instead of bronze, I'm going to use bronze or copper. To make the color different, I'm going to use silver metallic paint to give it some highlights. Okay. Just a little paint, dry brush it. Okay, now I'm going to highlight now the hinges. Can you see it? Okay, there. The highlight gives emphasis on the the carvings I made. Remember, I made this like a grapevine. And okay, look, compared to the one above, that's not painted yet. So when I paint this with dry brush technique, it will have a metallic touch. So there are your hinges now. Okay, so if you want, you can also add some silver on the steps. It depends on you. Now let's color the doorknob. I'm going to make the doorknob stand out a bit by applying copper and pearl green. Okay? Or let's use copper. Copper is reddish. It has more red tone than the copper. No, yeah, I got the colors mixed up. Copper is has a more red tinge than the bronze. Okay, so this is copper. This is bronze. Okay, so this is a bit has more red. So I'm going to dry brush the doorknob to give it a metallic copper look. Okay, there. Okay, now you see the difference, right? With the copper. Okay, and I would like to add some pearl green to make it look, uh, mossy. And um, the pearl green that I use, it's a fabric paint actually. I got from the bookstore. When mixed with copper or bronze, it gives that part I have painted with copper or bronze a look like it has oxidized. If you have seen some sculptures, iron or copper sculptures in public, when exposed to the elements, the pollution in the air and the sun and the rain, um, what do you call this? The bronze or the copper, they turn a little greenish. Some of them turn bluish. Okay, so I have my pearl green paint here. Now look at the effect it's going to give. Okay, so okay, the brush is a bit wet. Okay, let's get another brush. Okay, there. So it's going to turn it greenish, like tarnished. Uh, okay, I'll let this dry again. Okay, I'm going to apply copper again and let it dry because it's still wet. I cannot get the look of the tarnished copper. Okay, I'm retouching it with copper again, and later when I return, I'll show you how to retouch that. Okay, so far that's the effect that we have. I'll In the next video, I'll be showing you how to stain this with black. Okay, okay, wait. Now it's a bit dry. Okay, let's do the staining now. Okay, in staining, usually I get a basin. Let me get a basin. So here's my basin with some water. You can use a bottle cap because this dish, it's not really a basin but a dish. It's quite big. Okay, so I'm going to stain it with some uh, black paint. Okay, so I'm going to mix black paint. Okay. And then make sure this part is already dry. Okay, so you just brush part of it, make it look dirty. Okay. So it will have those black smudges once dried. Okay. So that's how you do it. Okay. Excuse me. Mhm. So I'm going to pause the video now, and then when I return, as I said, I'll show you how to paint the vines, the leaves, and the berries. Okay, so that this video won't be too long. See ya.